Hey everybody, this is Linda Misegadis, and you're listening to An Unconventional Guide to Success, the show that talks about real life with real people for those of you who are interested in learning from others the steps they took on their journey towards success as defined by them. Hey everyone, welcome to the studio. Hey Scott.
Good morning, Linda. How you been? It's been a whole week.
I'm good. I know. It's been too long. Why we used to talk all the time. We need to talk more often. So.
We concentrated onto this platform now, and then we're good.
We did, yeah. Now this is where we do all of our small talking. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Now we got to catch up. So we're very excited today. We have AJ Amyx in the office.
In the studio.
You know where my head is.
Yeah.
In the studio with us today. So it's great to have you here, AJ.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here with you guys.
Yeah, we're looking forward to this one. So AJ is an award-winning coach who has been helping drive leaders to make the big leaps in life and business since 2012. He has a series of inspirational and thought-provoking running via social media where he dives into important aspects, aspiring leaders to, really kind of help look for that inspiration. AJ is actually promoting Social Glow, which is a powerful software that puts your community, courses, and classes into a powerful and addictive experience that keeps your clients engaged, connected, and focused. So welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I love being on people's podcasts, love hanging out with people. I know this sounds weird. It's like kind of like being with people and then seeing kind of what's going to unfold. So I'm excited to see what happens.
No, it's so true. It's always good. I love that. And AJ, we like to start out, me, like Linda to start things out.
I always try and jump over this.
He does, which is why he doesn't get to start the show, because he tries to change everything up, and then it's not good for anyone. So
go ahead, Linda.
All right. We like to start the show out with an icebreaker, and the question is: if you could hang out with any cartoon character, who would you choose, and why would you choose that one?
Great question. So the person that's coming to my mind right now would probably be the Tasmanian Devil. And the question is why?
Yeah,
and I really don't
why
know.
Would you?
I think it'd be a little fun and chaotic, that you just kind of go through life and just, I don't know, it seems playful and energetic. Seems like it would just kind of be rejuvenating.
No, I like that. That's a good one. And he would be. I'm a huge Looney Tunes fan. So I would hang out with any of the Looney Tunes if I got the opportunity to do that. But Scott, I always like to ask Scott, even though I know his answer.
No.
Which cartoon character would you hang out with?
I'm still thrown a little bit by the Tasmanian Devil. I mean, does that mean we have like crazy, or does that mean, we never stop going? Like, go more on that for me.
That's right. That could be a little bit of both.
Yeah. Well, I kind of have
very cool.
I have a similar in that I'm more interested in being like the Incredible Hulk. I like the science of it all and trying to figure it out, until then one day I just kind of go crazy like the Tasmanian Devil or the Incredible Hulk. So we all know mine's the Incredible Hulk, Linda.
Yeah, no, which is a good one. I like it because it actually suits you really well, for sure.
All calm until not, right?
Yeah. All calm until not, exactly. So no, it's a good one. Well, and recently I've been talking a lot about Deadpool because he's one of my favorite, cartoon. He's not really a cartoon character. I guess he is if you go to the comic books, but I like him because he is who he is, and he makes no excuses for it, and he actually does good. He just does it in his own way, and I got to appreciate that he is comfortable in his own skin, which is good.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, he kind of has to be, because his skin got burnt off.
Got no choice, exactly.
So there's a lot of ice breaking on this guy's heat.
Yes, that's right. Exactly. That's it. So no, this is great. Well, thank you so much for indulging me on that one. It's always just kind of nice to get the flow going. But so coaching, that's something that you're clearly very interested in. So, and this is clearly Scott's background as well. So this should be a good one.
Let's talk, AJ.
I know he's looking forward to it.
I can't wait to hear what you've got there.
Absolutely. So AJ, what kind of coach would you consider yourself?
I don't know anymore. People always ask, and I just, this like life and business coach is kind of the container. But it's like, what type of coach? There's all these different types of coaches.
Yeah.
For me, it's more of like, where are you at? Where do you want to go? And what do we need to do? Do we need to clean things up? If we need to clean some stuff up, great. We can clean some stuff up. But my main thing is like, I want to go. Like, I want us to move. I don't want us to constantly be looking in the rearview mirror of like, well, what else is there to clean up? Well, do we need to go back to past lifetimes? We need to go back to 500 years ago. Like I always tell people, it's like if you look for shit, you're going to find it.
Yeah.
At some point in time, you have to come to a place where you're like, I have done everything I can to clean up as much as I want to
Yeah.
clean up. It is time to like focus where I want to go and let the past be the past, and the future is going to be the future, but I'm moving. And there's a
Yeah.
time and place, of course, like I said, to clean it up, but there's people can just indulge and kind of get stuck in this loop of gotta clean it up, gotta clean it up. And
Yeah.
if you're not careful, it kind of becomes this coping mechanism for them not to actually create whatever it is they're here to create.
Interesting
No,
perspective.
you know what? That's great.
Yeah,
Yeah, very interesting. And I agree, I agree with that idea that there is always like this idea that we have to go back and somehow figure out our past, and that's what's going to help us in the future. And I think I've come to that stage in my life where to your point, I figured enough shit out, and I know what my past was. I can't change it, but what I can do is where I am today and take that forward. So I like that way of thinking. I don't know, Scott, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that sounds a little bit like psychology and not coaching, right? When the people are going back
Yeah,
and
it does
unpack
sound a little more like psychology.
all that stuff. But I hear you how that gets diluted, AJ, in the coaching community, and how sometimes people think that that's the priority. I am executive coach, so I coach executives into their growth patterns. I've been certified as such at George Mason University, and then I credentialed at the International Coaching Federation, so that I had sort of those tools that help me not just explore maybe a little bit of the past, but also, like you said, drive forward. And, the title of my book was almost actually going to be Drive. So you and I actually really relate in that concept, because the things I talk about there and the things I'd like you to talk about with what you're doing clearly drive forward, almost like a Tasmanian devil kind of way, right? Right.
Yeah.
So,
That's true.
yeah.
That's a good way to draw it back. That's very true. It's just Tasmanian devil's always moving forward.
I love it.
That's
Yeah.
for sure. So I totally agree.
So so let's talk a little bit about this platform that you've got and how that helps people drive forward, AJ. Like what expertise are you putting in there? How did that get developed? Just give me the quick rundown on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're a big fan of community. Like even in like learning and courses, people want to learn together. And so we had built this platform. It was actually for the direct sales industry. We have another platform called Post My Party. And it's in the direct sales industry, and it helps them be able to automate all their parties on Facebook. And from a business level, we wanted to not have a whole platform that was tied to Facebook. Like you just get jerked around a lot when your whole business model is tied to Facebook. It's a huge pain. They can pull API privileges from you.
Okay.
There's nothing you can do about it. Nobody can talk to you. And so when a lot of our customers said, hey, we would like to have a platform where we could do what we're doing, but on our own platform, we're like, that's great. We'll build one. So we spent like 2 years building the platform. We launched it to the direct sales industry, and lo and behold, they didn't want it. So we're like, what are we going to do with this software? So I was coaching the CEO of that company at that time. Wow. He's a good friend of mine, Daniel Berg. And I was coaching him, and I was like, dude, this software is amazing. If we pivot this thing into the coaches, the course creator space, the membership owner space, they're going to love it. Like I know this industry. I've been a part of it for 12 years. I know everything that they need or could need. And I was like, they need a place to be able to host their courses, have conversations. They need a mobile app. And he's like, okay. This was in August of last year. So this is 2023 at the time of this recording. So August of 2022.
Awesome.
And he's like, I can have it built out by October. I'm like, seriously?
Wow.
He's like, yeah. So October, he pivoted the platform and all the dev team. And then we've just been now 10 months taking it to market. And that's kind of set this new vision. And the whole vision is being able to equip 10,000 coaches. And I always like saying, like, to help them to look out and see 10,000 lighthouses, 10,000 experts who are impacting the lives of 10 million people. And a lot of coaches, they have a very disjointed client fulfillment experience.
Yeah.
I'm a very big fan of creating experiences for people, right? They're on Kajabi or they're on Thinkific, they're on Teachable, and then they're having the conversations either on Facebook Messenger or on Voxer. And everything's just like over here. So we put everything into one single place. And then we brought gamification inside the mobile app. So people can start basically creating their own little Chuck E. Cheese experience. So people watch the videos, they go through the course, they complete it, action items, make posts, etc. They get points. the software tracks all the points, and we can create levels. And so you can start thinking about like identity-based incentivization if you have a user journey throughout that course structure, your membership model. And so then I take it and have people, how do you want to allow your people to redeem those points? So do you want to redeem those for one-on-one coaching calls? Do you want to redeem those points for a ticket to your live event? Do you want to redeem those points for money back towards your initial purchase? No right or wrong. It's up to the admin of how they want to create that experience. But that's what's starting to take this idea of courses and community and actually making it fun and engaging and allowing people to get the results that they paid for, and creating incentivization for them to do what you want them to do in the first place.
So you pay. Wow. So you, as a member, would, as a coach, I would want to join into this membership, if you will, right? And then I get access to all of these different courses. Where are the courses? Just from your experience, AJ, and what your background brings, where are your courses based? What are they based in? Are these like Myers-Briggs, or are these more?
So they're not. They're not our courses. They'd be yours. So it's whatever you're creating a course on for your community.
Okay.
So it's a platform for coaches, right? So it's basically, so instead of being part of like a Better Up or something like that, where you're, like all these different coaches and it's all in the Better Up app, you're saying this essentially gives, like if Scott wanted to have this, he would have his platform and then he would invite his, whoever he's coaching to use that platform. So that's it. And then you build all of that on the platform based off.
So it'd be my build, my build.
Okay.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Sort of omniscient to the 10,000 coaches that are using it, because they'll do it for themselves. Interesting. I was looking more for it to be a platform I would follow. I see. Yeah. That's exceptional.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's fascinating.
It's more of a fulfillment platform for coaches and course creators.
Understood.
Interesting. So why coaching though? Like why did you decide to go into coaching, AJ? Like what attracted you to that?
Great question. I never looked at like the coaching industry as like this $1 billion opportunity grab. I never was like, hey, I'm going to be a coach. It just kind of happened. And so my background actually in college was I have an art degree. I thought I was going to get out and do graphic design. And then so I started contracting at an ad agency for a little bit. And then I was also into music in college. And so I was basically contracting. This is me and the ad agency owner, and we worked in the sports and entertainment industry. And then I was also doing my band stuff. And so the band thing was my main thing. And I wanted to be able to inspire people to pursue their passions. And so we had this band. We're a 5-piece band, and we had 2 record offers. We had radio play here in the Dallas market. We had a 38 foot tour bus. And we kind of were climbing the mountain to the proverbial like independent rock and roll success. And then the band drama just completely crumbled. We played our last radio show in October of 2009. And so I was sitting there and I was like, well, what do I do next? Do I want to put together another group of guys? Because I really wasn't like a great musician. I was a very good performer. I understood how to book shows and all of the business side of things and tour logistics and merch and all of that. And so I was like, what do I want to do? Put together another group of guys. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be married to 4 other guys again. This is a nightmare. And so I always loved at that point in time, because this was 2008, 2009, I started seeing people like Mike Dillard in the direct sales space starting to use social media marketing to generate leads. Now, I never was a big fan of multi-level marketing. It just wasn't my thing, and I have nothing against it, just not my thing. But I thought it was interesting seeing all of these guys use technology to build businesses. I just thought it was fascinating because it was kind of like music to me. Meaning they could use technology to get a message to a bunch of people and make an impact, kind of like we would do when we're playing shows for 5,000 people or whatever.
Interesting parallel.
And so I chose then to go into social media marketing in 2011 before it was cool. And so I built a social media marketing agency in 2011. I had like 22, 23 clients on a recurring basis. I burnt out by 2012. And I hired my first coach, which was Garrett J. White. He runs a company now called Wake Up Warrior. 2012, he just launched Wake Up Warrior back then.
Awesome.
And so Garrett taught me the whole game of internet marketing. And he was like, well, why don't you start teaching all of the stuff you've been doing for the past couple of years? So then I started doing small group events. And then I started seeing people get results, some people not get results, even though you gave everybody the same skill sets. And that bothered me because I like when people win. And so then that led me down the path of mindset. And then I learned you could give people mindsets, perspectives on life, and skill sets and still not get results. What was that about? And then that led me down
Yeah.
into like the deep spiritual transformation path of uncovering people's unconscious blocks and working through that and past traumas so we could actually, again, move forward. Right.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's
Right.
kind of
Right.
what's happened. It's just been my life of being addicted to creating real world tangible results and then what's required to do that. And that's ultimately led me to, I guess, being a coach and playing this whole role as a coach.
That's fantastic. And what an
Fascinating.
evolution. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's 15 years of evolution. I liked it when you touched on
Yeah.
mindset
Yeah.
too, because what I heard when you were saying about that not also being the key to the equation, for me, I think it's a multifaceted equation, and you've hit on all of it, right?
Yeah.
You need the advising, you need the psychology, you need the coaching, you need the mindset, you need the communication, you need the leadership. Sounds like you hit your head on every one of those trees, but that this new platform might be exactly the ticket for us other coaches out there not to have to do that. That's really
Yeah.
impressive. It's a
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
background, AJ. Yeah.
That is. Yeah. What a
Thank
great
you. Yeah, I
story
kind
for
of boil it
sure.
down into like three things. You have mindset, skill sets, and what I call body sets. And the body set is just basically emotional intelligence. And
Yeah.
so many people, especially here in the West, we've been taught to kill, mask, and destroy this thing that I would call body sets or
Mm-hmm.
emotions, right? And if we do not have body sets, skill sets, it's very hard to lead at a high level.
Right?
Yeah.
Totally.
No, it's very true.
Say that
Yeah.
again.
Right.
Totally.
It's such a one. And I think that that's why there's been a resurgence of things like growth mindset versus fixed mindset, and really this whole focus on self awareness, because that's been a big part of it. One of our previous guests, Brian Chittister, had sent a post to Scott that was challenging about, like, is leadership dead today? Like, is it even really true? Like, are these people just figureheads, or are they true leaders? And do we really even need them anymore? And it was just an interesting article. But I know, Scott, talk a little bit about your reaction to that. And then I'd love to hear AJ's thoughts on that as well.
I think that leadership is definitely taught and trained, and it's multifaceted. I think it does exist, and it is needed. I would argue that, AJ, you would feel the same way, especially with you and your programs trying to help nurture that in the next
Mm-hmm.
generation.
Yeah,
Would you?
definitely. I don't know, AJ,
Yeah,
what are your thoughts around that? Yeah.
yeah, thanks for asking. So I'm a big fan of paradoxes. And so it's like, well, if we look at this, what is a leader?
Mm-hmm.
Is a leader somebody who has an identity of I'm a leader, you must follow me? Is this a leader? Or is a leader just somebody who has a clear vision and they do what's required and they invite people to come along the way? And there's no identity of I'm a leader, you're a follower. There's
Right.
just I'm a human, I'm perfectly imperfect, and I have a very clear vision of I want to go north, per se, right? And here's how I see we could get there. Here's what's required. Would you guys like to come with me? And as if somebody's being from that place, then we would say they are a leader.
Yeah.
But there's at leading at a high level, this becomes a trap when our ego is like, well, I'm the leader.
Mm-hmm.
The best leaders have this humility of just nothing to prove, nothing to defend. They take radical responsibility. They're willing to be radically accountable. They're willing to hold themselves radically accountable as well as holding other people radically accountable.
Yeah.
And they're naturally leading just because of who they're being, but not because they're being a leader or trying to be a leader. They're just being themselves and moving in a direction that people want to go with.
I like that. Yeah.
Inspiring and motivating others towards achieving a common goal with a positive end result. So I think what you just described is the word inspiring, AJ. And I think there
Yeah.
is truth
Yeah.
to the ownership of that. And then to be the most effective at that, you need to bring your self-awareness, you need to bring your self-care, you need to bring some of these other tools that people are best coached to unpack than told how to do, because they have a different style.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, all joking aside, Linda, I thought you were trying to get me to quote the LinkedIn message that I had with Chittister, but this is this is a very serious, very serious, interesting topic. Whole chapter dedicated to it. You have a whole platform dedicated to it, and I think it absolutely is needed. And this next generation, one of the reasons we're doing this podcast is to share with them the notions of the perspectives, so that they can go out and inspire and motivate and bring their skills to a whatever level of leadership they can, match that up with. to your point. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I think the leadership dynamic has changed because people have changed, right? So we're no longer comfortable or supportive of a hierarchical type of, focus within industry today, where it used to be, you didn't talk to the VP because you were this, line worker, and so therefore there was a proper chain of command that you had to, because somehow that person was untouchable to you. And that's just not acceptable anymore. And I think that there's more of this idea that you obviously have to have leadership because somebody has to take responsibility and accountability for what's happening. But that doesn't mean that, to your point, it's just a title. It's just a person who had a clear vision, who is capable of driving a mission forward. It doesn't mean that they're the smartest person in the room, or that they should be unreachable. And I think that we're redefining what leadership really should look like. And I think that's why maybe some of those executives are struggling, is because they're stuck in more of a traditional leadership way of thinking. And so therefore this newer way feels very uncomfortable.
AJ, do you feel like there's a difference between managing, which is I think what Linda was talking about, and leading, or are they one and the same?
They're kind of one and the same. I mean, I could see the distinction because as somebody who's in a leadership role, they're definitely spending a lot more of their time casting vision. Maybe in our current market, maybe it's about 2 years because things are changing so rapidly. So maybe thinking 10 years or 5 years is just not reasonable currently. But at least they're spending a lot of their time being in that future and getting clarity and leading, and then that's a distinction from management. However, if we look at the principles of just interacting with people, I'd say they're very similar actually.
Mm-hmm.
I like what you said there, though, AJ, because I do think that there is this desire to separate management from leadership. And I think that that's where we're also making a mistake, because managers do need to know how to lead effectively in order to be good managers. And I think that we try to create this distinction that, well, a manager is there to drive tasks and to, hold people accountable and to do managerial type of work. And a leader is this visionary person who's up here, driving all of this. And we're all supposed to kind of look at them in awe because, oh, wow, look at the CEO type of thing. Where the reality of it is that manager, in order to be effective in leading people, has to also be a leader. It's not just about tasks, because you're not going to get, people don't want to follow that. People can't get behind that. And I think, again, that's a part of what's happening in the work world today. COVID certainly uncovered a lot that's going on. And I think it's given people a new and fresh perspective on, am I really required to be married to this job, married to this role, married to this position? And am I required to maybe tolerate that? And it's created a lot of pressure now for managers, because we're saying that managers have this emotional responsibility towards their employees and helping them through those. And yet we've not given those managers the skills that they need to act as leaders and help coach and guide through that. And so I do think that that's why we're seeing such a big boom in the coaching and mentoring world today, is because there's this recognition that maybe we haven't done our due diligence when it comes to managers and leaders.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And one of the through lines I keep hearing is accountability, which is very interesting in today's culture.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like how actually can we hold people accountable? Because so like my judgment of culture is it's a victim based culture, and so the moment anybody tries to hold somebody accountable, there's lots of isms that
Yeah.
people like to
Yeah.
hide behind, and it's a very challenging opportunity for very good leaders.
Well,
Yeah, I completely agree.
and your platform is really helping the next generation of leaders who are aspiring to do that. I mean, that was really profound what you just said. And I think it's really important that the function of a coach is actually shared by what you said and the platforms you're creating and the concepts of helping people unpack that for
Mm-hmm.
themselves. So, I mean, the
Yeah.
hiding behind the isms, that's really interesting. I mean, tell me more about that.
Yeah.
Give me a
Yeah.
little
Talk a
more,
little bit
AJ.
more
That's
about that.
interesting.
So, for instance, I'm kind of guiding a guy who leads a very big organization right now, and he's kind of going through being canceled and being deplatformed. And he's being accused of lots of things. He's being accused of being racist. He's being accused of being misogynistic. He's being accused of also being homophobic.
Mm.
And so he's like, I'm none of these things. And I told him, I said, well, I'm all of those things. I am racist. I am homophobic. I'm misogynistic. I'm all of the isms. And he's like, what? And I'm like, I'm also not any of those things. But based upon somebody's perspective of how they see me, I could be all of those things. And for me
Yeah.
to fight against it, to prove or defend that I'm not, is futile. Because based upon their perspective, no matter what I say, if they see that in me, so it is.
Mm-hmm.
So why would I waste my energy proving or defending? I know who I am. I know who I'm not. So let's play a game called Shame Ball, where somebody's like, you're racist. Okay. What specifically did I say was racist? Now notice energetically how I'm sitting, I'm grounded. I'm sitting in the question. I'm seeking to understand.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not proving or defending. Because what happens in today's culture is when good men and women stand and they're being the light, the brighter the light, the longer the shadow. And here in today's culture, what I'm experiencing is people are looking at their shadows. I had a whole podcast on this in March of 2020 and talked about the gift of COVID and how it's going to be. The gift was people will deal with their shadows or they will die. This is the only way through moving forward. You either deal with it and be miserable and learn your lessons, or you're going to get the gifts and you're going to evolve forward, or you'll check out. It's going to be one of those two options. Misery, check out, learn your lessons.
Yeah.
This has always been the case for humans. This is nothing new.
Yeah.
But now it's like there's a very clear contrast. Here is your shadow. Here is your light. What do you choose? Well, in today's culture, we're saying it's your fault. I see my shadow. And Linda, it's your responsibility to take my shadow away from me.
Right.
It's all happening unconsciously.
Right.
Yeah.
Or Scott, it's your fault.
Yeah.
Right? A manager holds somebody accountable. A good leader holds people accountable. Like, oh, it raises something in them. And then rather than us having principles, skill sets, body sets, mindsets, where I'm like, hey, Linda, what I heard you say was A, B, and C. Is that really what you said?
Yeah.
Instead, I'd be like, oh, I feel offended from Linda. So Scott's her authority person. So Scott, Linda's this. She's an ism. She's an isist of whatever I want to hide behind, rather than being like, what does this mean about me? Because there's a principle here in humanity of if I'm pointing the finger at you, there's three fingers pointing back at me. Law of the mirror. Only always for all of us, but very few people understand the gift of the law of the mirror, right?
Yeah.
And so this is what I mean. So here's a good man who has lots of good fruit, who a few people didn't like him. They felt offended, rather than saying, hey, when this is what I heard you say, how can we clean it up? They go to the higher authorities. They get him deplatformed.
Yeah.
So there's no real accountability in this.
Yeah.
I told him, I said, this is going to be really hard for you. I imagine this would be intense. I imagine I'd be really angry and frustrated.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. We can go move that energy. But I was like, you're going to be in a really hard predicament, because if you sit here and kowtow to culture and you just apologize to everybody, number one, it's going to be a hero move on your part. And drama is always going to wreak drama, only always. You're going to become resentful, and you're going to spend the next 10 years of your career being a hollow man, meaning you won't be you.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to find out what is your hill that you're willing to die on. I'm talking about principles here.
Yeah. No.
And I don't know what his answer is going to be, but this is a real thing that's happening in culture for good men and good women who are choosing to be leaders and shine their light.
You're taking it and giving him the responsibility of it while you're guiding him. You use the word guide, and you're coaching through that, and it's his to own, is something that's resonating for me as an exceptional coach language, right? Like you're helping him figure this out, and understanding the isms is fascinating. So that's really a good way to describe it in this cancel culture, to your point, and people being diminished for perspectives and shadows.
Yeah.
I love it. Wow. That's really good.
No, that is really good. I'm curious your perspective. Go ahead, AJ.
When we could zoom out, because he's very in it, rightfully so.
Yeah.
We can zoom out and take this macro perspective. And I was like, do you see how what you said here raised this person's shadow? What you said here raised this person's shadow, and how it's projected on you And if you're not careful, you'll lose yourself in the projection. And I gave him an analogy. Like I went to high school in the 2000s. And so I remember going in algebra class
Wait,
and
I'm
walking
sorry.
through.
I'm sorry. Did you say 2000s? He's such a
Yeah.
young guy,
Yes.
Linda. This is such a young man.
I know, which is so awesome. It's really, I think this message is speaking
It's
to
really,
that too, that demographic.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Sorry,
awesome,
AJ. I just wanted to catch that.
No problem.
Yeah. But you went to high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were going to high school in the
High school.
2000s. Yeah.
And I remember walking in front of the overhead projector in algebra and having all these equations, right, on me. And I wasn't like, oh, I'm a math equation. I don't know what to do anymore.
Right.
We don't do that. We just know who we are, and we walk through the projection, and we go back and sit in our desk and act like nothing happens.
That's a great analogy.
But when we're communicating with people, and part of the beingness of being human is we're going to be projected on. We're going to project on other people.
Yeah.
Is part of the beingness of being human. We lose ourselves so often.
Yeah.
We start thinking like, I'm the math equation. I don't know who I am anymore.
Right.
And this, again, is what was happening for this leader. He's being projected upon. It raised his own shadow. I don't want to be this. I don't want to be that.
Yeah.
So it's really about knowing who you are and maintaining that center in the chaos of those crucial conversations and not being swept away by the projections.
Yeah.
This is another piece of it.
No, that's a really interesting piece of it that people aren't talking about. And now every time I walk through a shadow, I'm going to feel like I'm being taken over. So I'll make sure not to do that under your guidance, AJ.
I love that. That's a great analogy, though.
Really
I like
is.
the relatability of that because you're absolutely right. I'm curious, though, how you, what your thoughts are then in what you just said there. The other big buzz that's happening these days is authenticity. Oh, we all have to be our authentic selves. And part of the reason that has created some separateness in the world we live in today is that we aren't our authentic selves with everyone. Like, I grew up at a time you had a work person and you had your home person, and never the two shall meet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we didn't bring our personal into our jobs. It was not acceptable at all. Now we're being told, we should all bring our authentic selves to work, and everybody should be accepting of who that is. Well, what if I'm authentically an asshole? Does that mean that I get to be an asshole at work and you all just have to tolerate that?
Yes, Linda, that's exactly what it means.
Yeah, but it's very curious to me because I think it's great to throw around the notion of authenticity, but what does that really mean?
Yeah.
And how do we cope with it then in light of what you were just sharing about that projection and perception of people?
I love it. It's a great question. So notice how you're framing it. I'm either a good person or an asshole. So it's a very either or scenario.
Yeah.
When the gift is like, well, and it's very normal for our human mind to want an answer.
Yeah.
I need to know. Do you want me to be the good version? Do you want me to be the asshole version? Just like give me an answer, because if I don't know the answer, then there's a part of me who believes I will not survive. And if I don't survive, then I have to ensure my own survival. So please give me an answer. Yeah. And this is what the mind does. Now, the gift of some of this culture stuff, and I'm happy to go into it because I see the gift in it as well. The gift is really helping us see the and also. And so when we're talking about authenticity, and even many of the people, my judgment of them who talk about authenticity, they're full of shit.
Yeah.
Because one cannot be authentic until they're willing to own that they're also inauthentic. This comes back to being a spectrum. I am both a very good person and I can be a raging asshole at times, which is true.
Yeah.
Both are true for me.
Yeah.
Wisdom is knowing, what does this moment require?
Yeah.
And there's a whole spectrum of unlimited possibilities that we could choose in this moment.
Yeah.
And so it's a relative thing. So when we're talking about authenticity, it's not as simple as like, well, just be your genuine self.
Right.
Well, very, very few people actually know who their genuine self is. They haven't explored the edges. They haven't accepted their shadows. They haven't accepted the possibility that they're an asshole, they're a bitch, they're a loser, they're lazy, they're like whatever. Mm-hmm. And this is different for different things for different people, based upon their culture, based upon their parents, based upon their religion, based upon a bunch of things. They're going to have different identities that they're resisting. And so once we can experientially own them in the body, then we're just free to be ourselves. That's the best way I could say that.
Well, and I think
I like that. That's good.
Yeah, I think self-awareness is probably the key to successful leadership as a starting point.
I think you're right.
And understanding there are polarities between severe behaviors and understanding, be fed and watered and understand what you bring to the table is exactly what we're
Yeah.
trying to talk about here. And AJ, you've done a really nice job of running us through all those sort of pieces, because so many people are textbook, I'm going to be a great communicator and that's going to make me a great leader, when really you have so many different, and I like the analogy of shadows, you have so many different ways of unpacking that. And quite frankly, it never ends. So, being self-aware is, for me, the number one starting point as a leader. I've got a company with 100 people. My door is not open to every conversation, but yet it's open to every person. So there's distinction and there's awareness, and then bringing my best self forward doesn't mean I was out on a bender last night when I came in this morning. I'm fed, I'm watered, and I'm rested. So there's a total Rubik's Cube or equation here that I like us unpacking today, that's really in line with your platforms, in line with what we're trying to do for the next generation. So I appreciate the candidness. Yeah.
No, it's great wisdom. No, I like it. Well, so along those same lines, one of the things that Scott talks about, and I'm curious your thoughts on this as well, AJ, is in order to be successful in all of this, there has to be a level of self-care. So what do you do from a self-care perspective to make sure, because in what you're doing, when you are kind of analyzing all of this, it can also take you to a pretty dark place if you're not taking care of self-care, taking care of yourself. So what do you do and how do you approach that?
Yeah, it's been an ever evolving journey, because I grew up in a blue collar family, and so the culture was very much you sleep when you die, you work, and so it's been like a whole journey. So for me, I meditate anywhere from an hour to 2 hours a day.
Wow.
I lift weights, kinesthetic weights currently is what my physical activity. And that rotates. Sometimes I do boxing training and fight training. And so it's kind of ebb and flow with how I want to move my body or run, whatever. The other thing I do is breath work. I probably do breath work 2 or 3 times throughout the day. And then I'm also moving into a season that's really pushing my edge, because I don't know why, but I call them cave days. So I have a wife, I have a daughter. And so there's a part of me who feels guilty, because I'm like, I need a whole day where I'm not a dad. I'm not a husband. I'm not a business owner. I'm not a coach.
Yeah.
And for my wife, it's different. She's from Romania. And so she loves European culture and traveling and being with people and being in cities and walking. And I am a guy that gets like, literally, can I just go be in a cave with no humans for like a full day?
Yes.
Yeah.
And she's like,
I'll be the one next to you.
Yeah. I would say I can relate to that one too. We'll have 3 caves right next to each other. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And so this is really pushing my edge to give myself permission to do that. And the way that I've been doing that is I'll go camping for a day. And this is even pushing my edge, because intuitively it's like, we need 3 days. And I'm like, 3 days? Why do I got to be so weird? Like, what's wrong with me? You know what I mean? But as I look like on some of the greatest spiritual teachers, they ebbed and flowed, which is very interesting. If we look at Jesus, he would go up into the mountains for days at a time. We don't even know for how long he was gone.
Yeah.
If we look at Moses, he was gone for like months. You know what I mean? Like, he was gone for so long, they built a whole city and a whole new culture by the time he came back down.
Right, exactly, yes.
And so there is something, at least I think there's something there, at least for me, and maybe for other leaders as well, because there's so much in their masculine, and they're giving and they're giving and they're giving and they're giving and they're outputting, that they get to go plug into the feminine. And I'm not talking about like sex or anything or even women at all. I'm talking about like the spiritual essence of the feminine, where it nourishes them at a spiritual level, so they can go back and give. And I'm finding culturally, at least for a lot of men and a lot of women as well, that they're not taking time to reconnect with, I would call, the divine feminine, to be nourished and inspired.
It's a really nice way to put it. And I'm the same way. I will go undercover for a day and just get out of the fold, and massage day, massage time. And you need that recharge to just not get caught in the shadows that are being put on you.
Yeah.
To your point, AJ. Yeah. And so you can strip those out and sort of reconnect and recharge and get some sleep. You bring your best self forward as a leader. And it's really, really important that people take that time to do that. I think they bring them their best selves.
Yeah.
I've witnessed it. I teach that to my kids. I have 3 kids.
Agree.
And they are definitely learning to meditate, journal, all the things that center them outside of the pings and dings of their phones and their games and their schoolwork and the stuff. So I'm really glad to hear you encourage that, because I think that's yet another component of that Rubik's Cube of success. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Well,
definitely
the
is.
interesting thing is, at least in American culture, we think we can hack our way to self care,
Yes, we
right?
do.
They're like,
Yeah.
okay, so what is the formula for self care?
Right.
Yeah.
Meditate 30 minutes a day? Check.
Right.
Massage once a week? Check.
Right.
Yeah.
What else is there? Like, check. And
Yeah.
that's actually defeats the whole purpose. Like now we're trying to masculinize, if that's a word.
Yeah.
We're trying to
Yeah.
bring the
Yeah.
like make the feminine masculine, basically.
Yeah.
And so it's like, no, like just can you have a pocket to be nothing, do nothing?
That's
So
so
Well,
true.
what do you mean?
well,
Yeah.
I might argue that the way that that is heard is true, but I would suggest that I'm the busiest person on the planet. I need to put it in my calendar or I won't do it. Therefore, the check is implied.
But I
So
think
I
that's a
do
little
take the
bit
time.
different because but I think that's different. Like scheduling the time, I
Yeah.
think is good because, if I don't schedule my day, then I agree. However,
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, AJ, from the standpoint, like I just read an article recently about that whole 10,000 step thing. Like somewhere along the line, we convinced ourselves that we have to get in 10,000 steps a day because somebody told us that. And then they created the Fitbit thing or whatever. And now that's what we're all. And so now it's not about just out healthy and walking and moving. It's about, I got to get
Check.
on my 10,000 steps.
Good
And so,
point.
yeah, so there's the check. Or, to your point, I've got to meditate because I do my meditation as well. And it's very non-traditional way that I do it. And at first I felt really guilty about it. I'm like, well, I can't really say I meditate because I'm not really doing it the way that they tell you to do it, but it works for me.
Yeah.
And I had to come to that level of acceptance. So I agree, Scott, you got to schedule it. And it is
Yeah.
important
That's my
because you got to
check.
make time for it. Otherwise you don't do it for sure. But I also agree with what AJ is saying in that we are a culture that likes to figure out what the formula is so that we can just check the box and say, okay, I did that self-care, done, and then move on to the next.
Yeah, you have to
thing.
be in it when you're doing it. I was teasing AJ
Yeah.
about the fact that I have to schedule it and that's a check, but you have to be in it when you're in it. You have to be in it when you're in it. And that's really critical.
Yeah. I totally agree. No, it's really good. Well, so AJ, who's been your most important or professional mentor? Like who's been that person for you throughout your life?
Yeah, it's been two people. It's been a guy named Jeremy Gene Wilson and a guy named Christopher John Stubbs. I still work with Christopher. Christopher's amazing. And I've done medicine work with Christopher. He supported me through my wife's cancer. I'm still in part of Christopher's men's group. I've supported Christopher. Yeah, deeply transformational.
That's wonderful.
Being with Christopher, working through some very, very deep stuff with Christopher.
Yeah, no,
Wonderful.
that's awesome. Well, so we like to usually end our show with 3 questions. And so here are my 3 questions for you. What is a common myth about your job or field or a field of expertise?
Yeah, I think a common myth, I think for a lot of coaches, and I used to believe this too, is I had to have all the answers. It was
Yeah.
like it's my responsibility to take you somewhere. Now, on the other side of that, because I've been part of group coaching programs where they ask me like, "Well, what do you think?" And I want to punch them in the face. Like,
Tell us how you really feel, AJ. Did you want to punch him in the face or the throat?
I wish you'd be authentically yourself, AJ. Yes. I love it.
Because it's like there's this whole like culture of coaches who go through coach training and they're like, well, you just ask questions. And
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of consultative coaching. Like I do have some experiential wisdom that I could probably help you collapse a decade into about an hour. So I like you're going to walk into a pit. Like I see it. I know it's there. I'm not going to be like, so do you want to walk into the pit or do you not? Like I want to sometimes like there's a hole there. Like you may not want to walk there. And I want other people to relate to me that way too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, drive.
That's good.
Our Tasmanian devil is in full drive right now, Linda. Look at him go.
I love it. I love it. It totally makes sense now,
Totally.
having spent this time with AJ. I'm like, oh, all right. He may not have realized why he wanted to hang out with Taz, but now I think it all makes a little more sense.
It's welcome to be in the spectrum. We can go from peace and calm to like I'll eat your face. We'll go the whole way.
Polarities are this guy. AJ, I love that you
that's
say that though,
great.
because so many coaches, I really struggled with going through the program in the question of it. I'm so glad I did. And I understand all that. And I feel more seasoned, but I 100% get that my coach, while sort of certified in experience, is just as effective because I get strategic advice as part of the combo.
Exactly.
And I think I think who cares if you're being the authentic coach to the International Coaching Federation standards in an environment where you're able to help the next gen. And so I really admire what you say about that myth being, like constantly in the inquiry. I get the loop on that. I really do. But it's a loop. I'm more like you. And that's why I said my book title was literally going to be Drive, except for somebody else already had it. Because I was like, just drive, go.
Yeah.
So I get that. Yeah. Good myth.
No,
good myth
like
buster.
That is a good one. All right. So my next one is, what is the most important lesson you've learned over your career thus far?
Yeah. I get asked this question a lot, and it always comes back to me I have nothing to prove or defend. And it's not just me. Every single human being on the planet has nothing to prove or nothing to defend.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Ever, ever, ever. Never, ever.
Yeah.
It's like you are completely free to be you and lead as you choose to lead. You have nothing to prove or defend.
Fantastic.
And when you get that, not just like get it,
but
like get it inside of your soul, into your heart, into your bones, you're free to create however you choose to create.
That's a powerful message for the younger generation who's very caught up in the acceptance of social media. And so, because it's that validation, it's that like my post, like me, tell me I'm good. And I think that that's an important message that, owe that to anybody, what you owe is to yourself.
That's
so
right.
I love that. That's a good one for sure.
Damn, AJ, you're hitting on all cylinders today.
Yeah,
we really appreciate
it. You definitely
I hope our audience appreciates the value you're bringing, because it's quite impressive. I think it's aligned with our messaging for sure. Yeah. All right, Linda, fire off this last one.
I totally agree. All right. My final question is, what's one lesson your job has taught you that you think everyone should learn at some point in their life?
Well, to me, this comes right back. I've already said it, which is nothing to prove or defend, which I know it sounds, we could talk about this an accomplishment thing, but it's also freed me up in my marriage as well. Like there was a point in time where I was so worried that my wife was going to leave me at some point. And so there was always like this internal power struggle. And so until I accepted, and Christopher actually helped me work through this a little bit, until I could accept the possibility that there's nothing I could ever do to be a good husband to ensure my wife never left, that was stressful.
Yeah.
So the truth was, my wife could leave me and take my child any day she wanted.
Right.
She totally could. And there's nothing I could ever do about it.
Yeah.
There's nothing I could do to prove or earn or defend. Like, well, I have the Apple's EarPod case, so I am a good husband, or whatever my finish line for being a good husband was.
Yeah.
So that was a shadow. I released it. And I was like, well, all I can do is do my best to be my best. And she either sees value, and hopefully we can do our best to have a culture where we communicate, which we do. As you could probably tell, we talk about all things. There's not a subject that's off limits between us. And so we would just be able to communicate, and, if it happens, it happens. And I'll have to accept that as a possibility. So nothing to prove or defend for me is very fractal, and it doesn't just apply to performance. It doesn't just apply to my self-love. It applies to every aspect of life. And that gives me the freedom to have the capacity to lead in any situation, knowing whatever happens.
Wow.
Like, it's ultimately cultivating certainty and uncertainty. But that is the best place I found to lead and be.
That's great. You know what I love about this, Scott, is like, I am so glad that we get to bring this message to all of these, people that are kind of looking for that. Cause I would have loved these little nuggets of wisdom when I was coming up. I would have loved for somebody to say that to me when I was a kid, where we very much it was all about, you do have something to prove and you do have something to defend, and to all those points that you made about that. And so I think these are just such incredible, and critical messages to be coming to generations today, and not just the younger generations. I mean, all of us have a lesson to learn.
I think it's emerging leaders, and I would also say, AJ, I really appreciated how you brought it back to personal relationships, your wife,
me too,
business, self-care. The quadrant of all the pieces are really important, and if it wasn't inferred in your anecdote about your wife, it was definitely. I want to highlight that for emerging leaders and for the next generation, that it all comes together, and you did a really nice job of sharing that. So I really appreciate your stories and your approach on all of that. I'm really glad that we got a chance to chat with you today. Yeah.
Me too. This was great.
Welcome. I look at it kind of like, I call it a success engine. Like you have these 5 cylinders: faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun. And a motor will run if it has a leaking cylinder. It's just not going to run very efficiently.
It's
Even if
true.
one of the cylinders is completely blown, it'll still run, but it's very inefficient. And it's going to suck a ton of fuel.
Yeah.
And so it's like optimize those 5 cylinders, and you'll have a lot of
What are they
power to
again?
go
What are they
wherever
again?
you.
Yeah, say those
Faith,
again.
family, fitness, finance, and fun. And so when I say
Ah,
faith, I'm not talking about a certain religion.
yeah.
It's just your connection to what you would call God, spirit, universe, science, whatever your frame for that is. I don't
Yeah.
care. Just
Yeah.
whatever your version of
Mhm.
it, do it amazing.
Yeah.
You know, whatever it is for you.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's good.
No, that's
Yeah, that's
that's
a
great.
great way to end.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
no,
you.
for sure. Well, thank you so much, AJ. Thanks, Scott. It was
You're
great to
welcome.
be here again with you. And I hope our audience enjoyed AJ as much as we did. So thanks, everyone. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
day.
Yeah.
An Unconventional Guide to Success is an inspirational, motivated series hosted by Scott Montgomery and Linda Misegadis, recorded on Riverside.fm. Music, editing, and production by Logan Misegadis. Check out Scott Montgomery's new book, How Did You Get Here, and all the helpful related materials at www.howdidyougethere.com. Thank you for joining us on our journey. If you would like to reach out to us, our contact information is in the show notes.